Hey everyone, Kaz here from Two Broke Watch Knobs. I am very excited to be talking today about the Christopher Ward 12. This is Christopher Ward's entry into the renewed interest we're seeing right now in the watch world for the integrated bracelet sports style watch. This model in particular here of the Christopher Ward 12 is the 36mm model in titanium. You know I love me a titanium watch, and the dial color here, the beautiful dial color, is Lagoon Blue. Huge thank you to Christopher Ward for not just allowing me to spend time with the watch, but allowing me to spend a long time with the watch. I really want to put this watch through its paces, wear it. For me, it is an incredible option for an elevated everyday wearing watch. So I've compiled all my notes. I'm looking at them right here on my second screen. You're going to see me do every now and then one of these movements with my head here. So before we jump into that, what I really want to share with folks is if you like to book watch knobs, if you're a fan of the podcast, if you enjoy these video reviews, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. We're going to keep doing these video reviews. We're going to be doing also a lot of other pieces here as well that I think people are going to enjoy. So with that said, let's jump back into it. Boom. Christopher Ward 12. We're going to be going through our stations, and I'm going to be breaking down the things that I feel are important for you to know to make an informed purchasing decision. That's always something we're trying to emphasize here at Two Broke Watch Knobs. So what can I share based on my personal experience with this timepiece that can help you determine if it's something you actually want to put on your wrists? You know, is the watch greater than the sum of its parts? That's something we always ask ourselves here on the site and the YouTube channel, apparently. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about the case. So in terms of specs, like I mentioned, 36 millimeters in diameter. That's basically accurate. It's 36, not counting this little crown guard here, which I love, and I'll tell you why in a moment. On the website, the stated thickness is, or thinness. This is an amazingly thin watch. Stated thickness is 8.95 millimeters. That's fairly accurate. You know, when I was looking at it with the case back, it's closer to the low 9s, but it's under 10 millimeters, and it is automatic. So anything that's under 10 millimeters and automatic, to me, is a thin watch. This is a very, very thin watch, which lends itself nicely to the everyday wearability. So if you're at all familiar with integrated bracelet watches, you understand that this is a very tricky metric to nail down. The lug-to-lug measurement on the Christopher Ward website is stated as 40.8. It depends where the lugs are. It depends where you think the lugs are. If you think the lugs are here, starting essentially at this gap, or really this sort of male end of the case, because this is where the bracelet separates. I'll show you that in the video as well. This is where the bracelet separates. So if the lugs start here and end there, then yes, that's basically 40 millimeters. But if you notice, the bracelet doesn't articulate and bend or really conform to the shape of your wrist at that area there. It actually bends and conforms here. This is essentially stationary. I can't bend this any further than I'm bending it now. So the actual lug-to-lug wearing experience is going to be closer to maybe 47 millimeters, 50 millimeters, depending on if you're measuring from here or if you're measuring from that gap. But honestly, that is not a deterrent. That is not any way, shape, or form a deal breaker. This watch actually wears very well. The case dimensions are balanced as such to where it gives you everything you want with the 36 millimeter watch. I have a 6.75 inch wrist, so if your wrist size is similar or larger to mine, hopefully that can help you sort of index where this watch would be on you. But I have a 6.75 inch wrist. 36 millimeters is definitely sort of the minimum of where I'd go, but it's also a nice sweet spot depending on the lug to lug. If the actual lug to lug wearing experience was closer to the stated 40 millimeters or maybe even below that, it would feel a lot smaller than it is. As right now, visually, it gives me everything I want in a 36 millimeter watch, but it gives me the wearing comfort of, you know, closer to a 40 millimeter watch, really. It conforms to the shape of my wrist wonderfully. I can't wait to talk to you about the bracelet. I've had a ton of fun with the bracelet. So huge. I'm very impressed with the actual case shape on the watch in regards to its comfort. What I also really want to talk about is there are not a lot of curves or rounded edges anywhere on the watch. But what the case does is the case balances this very well. So I have a lot of hard angles, I have a lot of right angles, I have a lot of straight edges, I don't have a lot of curves. If I just had hard angles and straight edges, the watch might potentially feel somewhat blocky, if that makes sense, or maybe a bit dated. But there's two very particular angles I want to focus on. So I had to write this down. On the Dogekagon, I'm not saying that right. Dogekagon bezel, it's just a 12-sided bezel. There's these 12, flat facets that you can see here. That is a design feature, but it also just lends itself really well, I think, to just the overall wearing experience of the watch. If you look at the bezel from the side, you see, so it's not straight. It's not just like, a straight-sided bezel. If you look, it has a bit of a bevel. Let me try to get this on the camera in a way that's meaningful. There we go. You can see that it has a bevel. That rounded shape, in conjunction, honestly, with this crown guard, which is doing a lot for the overall feel of the watch. This crown guard is comprised primarily of curves. Has these two curves here. It has a curve and a polished bevel on the actual edge as well. This more long side here is also slightly polished, it looks like. The curve of the bezel and the curve of the crown guard are allowing the watch to still feel very fresh and not too blocky or clunky. It's pretty subtle. It's kind of hard to tell in photos, but when you have it on a wrist, like I've had for a long time, it definitely stands out. The other point about the case I want to mention is that there is a very interesting contrast interplay here between polished and matte features. Give me a second here. I'm fighting with my light. If you know me, I like fighting with lights. There's a very good interplay here between polished and matte features. So front part of the bezel, matte. The curve that we talked about on the actual side of the bezel, you can tell, there it is, polished. Back to matte on this actual majority of the case structure. The actual edge there is beveled and polished also, and that essentially it creates a layering effect to where it gives you a very elevated wearing experience, and when it's actually on your wrist, it makes it feel like it's popping. It's popping is a very empty phrase. It gives you a very dynamic feel where it just kind of gives you the sense that the watch is leaping off the wrist visually. Like, it doesn't feel flat. There's a ton of visual interest. A lot of that is coming from obviously the dial, but also just how the case really handles light and then throws it back at you, which is good and bad, which we'll talk about at the dial stage. So huge win for me on the case. Exhibition case back as well. You can see that here. Really cool. For me, these aren't really big things to focus on, but it is there. Let's see here. Bracelet. So the bracelet's very interesting. So we talked about, again, this is potentially, a 47 to 50 millimeter lug wearing experience watch, which would normally scare me away, but not in this format, not in this actual design style, and integrated bracelet watch. So the bracelet starts here. Let me do it from this angle. Starts here. It's about 22 millimeters here at the thickest. So, if you're looking at these specs on paper, 36 millimeter watch, 22 millimeter lugs, what the heck? It works. It works so well. And it works primarily just because of this integrated bracelet style design. So it starts 22 millimeters here, and it has a beautiful taper down to about, what did I write? Down to about 17-ish. I would say 16, 17, really depends. And so that creates, again, actually, it lends itself to that refined wearing experience. So, I think we talked about this in previous reviews. There are certain integrated bracelet sports style watches which are trying to make themselves more rugged. The idea of being an actual everyday wearer where, you can maybe bang it around a little bit. You could bang this around a while. You could bang this watch around if you want as well. But I think the intention here is to offer something a bit more elevated, and the way the bracelet tapers certainly feeds into that as well. So really enjoy that part of it. So I want to start to hone in, if I can get this off my wrist, I want to start to hone in on really what's happening on the individual links. Let me get my camera to focus. Okay. Yeah, that's probably better. Let me get my camera to focus here. So the one of the more interesting things that people look for when they want to get an integrated bracelet sports style watch is, what does the bracelet do? How does the bracelet balance and reflect light? That is always going to be something that you'll see people play with it on Instagram. Like, you'll end up playing with it yourself if you haven't handled one before. And I think Christopher Ward, when they were designing this, wanted to give folks that satisfaction of having this light play, reflection play on the bracelet, but without having it feel like too blingy or too much of a novelty or too much of like a not fan service, but it's hard to describe it. They created it in a way where it's very balanced and it's serving a purpose, as opposed to, giving someone more of something they want because they think it'll get them to buy the watch or whatever. So, really what I want to focus on is actually what's happening on each individual link. So the largest surface of the watch you'll see is basically matte. It's this beautiful matte titanium finish. As I adjust my microphone, sorry, it's this beautiful matte titanium finish. But on each link, there are 3 specific polished surfaces that are acting to give you that really nice feeling of having an integrated bracelet watch play with light, but in a very subtle and balanced way, which actually has a beautiful interplay with how light is layered on the case. So let's kind of really focus in here. So the largest part of the lug, or of the link, like I mentioned before, it's this kind of matte finish. The first polished surface you're going to see is actually right there. Sorry if it's hard to see. It's not even the full top part of the link. It's just this little part there. That is polished. And then the other part of the link that's polished, the second surface, is right there. It's hard to see, I think. Let me see. Bear with me, everyone. There we go. Right there. It's not the full link. Like, all of this is not polished. It's just this initial little stripe up there. And then the third polished surface of the link is the bevel on the side here. So it's 3 polished surfaces, and I'll go in sort of reverse order. This side polished bevel creates a lot of beautiful continuity. It just creates a very nice line, and so it helps the bracelet feel like a single unit, and it gives it a little bit of light dynamicism as well. This link here is a large polished surface, which obviously can shoot more light back at you. But then these surfaces here that are polished, they're smaller, but there's 2 of them. So essentially what happens is it just breaks down from different versions of polishing, and that's really just a fancy ass way of saying it just handles light so well. It's really hard for me to capture on camera. We're working on our camera equipment, by the way, over here at Two Book Watch Knobs. Hopefully it doesn't take me as long as it took me to get a good microphone. That's a joke for any OG TBWS people. There are any out there. But that's also a really fancy way of saying the bracelet has so much design thought going into it, it would be so easy to miss it, honestly. So huge props on the bracelet. It is amazingly finessed. The fit and finish is perfect. I was saving this for my overall thoughts, but I don't want to send this watch back. Obviously I'm going to, but maybe one make it into the collection one day. Best thing ever. I have to explain to you. Screw links. I don't know if anyone saw those. Screw links. Yes. All day. This is a titanium watch with screw links. I'm looking at you, other titanium watches that I own in my personal collection, which are pin and collar. It makes sizing the bracelet incredibly easy. These are really, really great and very fun to work with. I want to demonstrate this next part at the end because it's going to take me at least 45 minutes to get it back on. But the bracelet does have a quick release. Come on, light. There we go. The bracelet does have a quick release system. You can see it's these two little kind of levers here. You're supposed to grab them, squeeze them in, and then the bracelet just pops off. That is a huge pro. Being able to easily take the bracelet off is great. Putting it back on is very difficult. I find it very finicky. It's very, very difficult for me to get the bracelet back on. Could be user error, but it's definitely worth mentioning. If you also have struggled with that on other watches, you'll probably struggle on that with this watch as well. I like the clasp. It is a full linked butterfly clasp. The actual clasp mechanism is milled as well. You have the Christopher Ward branding there. Very, very cool. The only thing is sometimes just because of the style... There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. Just because of the style of the clasp here, sometimes the releases stick, and you might have to... I did a little bit there. You may have to kind of finagle it to get it off a little bit. So... But honestly, not a big deal. The whole presentation is beautiful, and everything else about the bracelet is just a huge win for me also. So let's switch gears and talk about the dial. And I'm going to do my best to keep this focused and straight. Let's talk about the dial. It is this Lagoon blue, which is totally, totally beautiful. It is a little bit different from some of the other colors. Some of the other colors that you'll see are going to be static or flat. This is very much almost like I guess technically like a centrifugal or like a circular ombre effect. It goes from dark on the outside to a lighter color as you work your way towards the middle of the watch. So in that regard, the dial is really, really beautiful. What I think is really fun also is there's another interesting design contrast between the actual kind of, I'll call it, let me move the carpet out of the way. Sorry, tiny carpet. The actual ombre effect, it's if I were to classify the movements of the color, it's slow. It's very slow. It's very organic transition from one version of the color to the next version of the color, and it is very, very smooth. That's contrasted really nicely with this dial texture, which is, the dial texture is essentially an echo of some parts of the Christopher Ward logo. So you have a very cool contrast between this slow moving organic ombre movement and this very sharp staccato like dial pattern that's occurring. And again, it's just another one of those things where the watch balances a lot of different elements in a way that just elevates the whole experience. It has lume, which definitely to me indicates that it lends itself very well to an everyday wear. It is Super Luminova X1. I found it to be fine. It's got lume on the markers, it's got lume on the hands. Lume to me these days, especially on a watch like this, isn't really something I would focus on. It is a screw down crown. It has 100 meters of... Oh, sorry, I didn't have it in frame. It has 100 meters of water resistance. Don't dive with this watch. Probably splash it while doing dishes. That's fine. And it is also a screw down case back, which is lending itself to the 100 meters of water resistance. So back to the dial. Applied markers with the Luminova X1. The thing that's interesting is this is not the most legible dial. So, my light may not be giving you a good sense, but let me try to get it more in like... So let me explain this. The markers are polished. The hands are polished. The lume is white. These hands are beautiful, by the way. These are like almost like a lance, like a faceted lance style hand with the lume. So the markers are polished. The hands are polished. The dial has a bit of a sheen to it. Actually, it's a little bit of a duotone or a tritone iridescence almost. The dial has a bit of a sheen to it as well. All of these are reflective elements. All of these are elements that throw light back at you. So I had the experience a few times, putting the watch on for y'all. I had the experience a few times where I went to quickly check my watch and I had to kind of pause and squint because the watch was just throwing so much brightness back at my eye. I couldn't get enough contrast to tell the time. So if legibility is a deal breaker for you, I would definitely keep that in mind. It's not a deal breaker for me. If I can't read my watch, I'll read my phone. I'm not too cut up about legibility on a watch like this. Legibility is not the purpose of this watch. Wearing experience, everyday wearability, which I guess legibility should play into, but that's just something to keep in mind. Now, there are different colors which probably lend themselves much better to legibility, and that would sort of get around the issue of legibility. Anything that's a darker color, would do you pretty good. So if you like everything about this watch, but maybe not the dial color, or maybe not the fact that it's not as legible as it could be, get a darker dial. That's going to do you pretty good. So in regards to the dial, it is a perfect complement to everything else on the watch. Interplay between contrasting elements, and just again, it is working over time to elevate the whole experience of the watch as well. So the movement, I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the movement. Nothing too special. There is the Sellita SW300. It is COSC certified. It is plus 6 seconds, minus 4 seconds a day. So obviously very accurate, very nice, really, really cool. 55-hour power reserve. And the actual winding experience, if anyone else is a winding junkie, actually very nice on here. And actually, I really like the crown guard, the way it's shaped. I don't know if you can see. It actually ends up guiding my hands, so I feel very, very secure in this winding experience. So it's actually a really, really cool feature. But in regards to the movement, I have no complaints. It's done its job. It has some nice sort of rotor decoration there you can see. So nothing there really for me to jump into. If this were a different watch with like a fully in-house movement, I think I did a little bit of a deep dive on some of the fully in-house movement aspects on some other watches and things like that. But here for this watch, this is the perfect movement to actually feature in it. So to round things out, the wearing experience here, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. It is a very refined, elevated, elegant, but still everyday approachable wearing experience on this watch. There's different colors, there's different sizes. This is the 36 millimeter on my 6.75 inch wrist. This thing is an absolute contender for an everyday watch for someone that maybe doesn't want like a field watch. I feel like a lot of the times when people talk about everyday watches, it ends up becoming a recommendation for like a field watch or something that's maybe a bit more casual, if that makes sense. Casual in terms of fashion formality and things like that. Some people want an everyday watch that's maybe leaning a bit more on the dress side watch kind of spectrum. And the Christopher Ward 12 100% is. I think this is the perfect watch for someone that wants a dress watch that's an everyday watch, but also wants something that's very comfortable and that honestly you would be pretty happy with. So pricing for this, so pricing is going to vary based on. Let me pull up the actual website so I can give you all up-to-date information as of the time of this recording. Pricing for the titanium version is going to be approximately, I believe it's $1875. Now, that is going to be on the higher end of what you would pay for one of these 12 series. So prices are going to range from, obviously 4,800 for the new 12X Ti, or at least new at the time of this recording. But the titanium version here, yep, confirmed, is $1895. There are the stainless steel versions are going to range from 1,200 to 1,400 depending on the bracelet style. So what I would say is, if I were to offer a broad range, I would say overall pricing for these, realistically for your everyday sort of models, they're going to range from high 900s to the 2,500s. So what I would encourage everyone to do, because this is only one instance of the. Here, let me actually put it back on my camera. There you go. This is only one instance of the 12 here. There are several instances. I would go to the Christopher Ward website and I would look for a model, dial configuration and a bracelet option and a case material that spoke to you. If you like everything about this and just want to feel like you can get a little extra sense of personalization, go to the website, check it out. For me, I'm going to seriously consider probably one of the stainless steel versions, because I really want to add an integrated bracelet watch into the collection like this. So I'm going to be on the website looking at those start, like your kind of basic ones. Those are the ones that are going to be in the upper nines. That's probably where I'm going to be looking realistically. But if you budgeted about $1,800 or $2,000 for a titanium, integrated bracelet watch like this, I could think of no better way of, allocating those funds. So with that said, let's do this. Let me switch back to main camera again. Boom. This has been a ton of fun, everyone. Really appreciate the time and letting me chat with you about my experience with the Christopher Ward 12. Or I guess the 12 is technically what it's called. Again, amazing proportions, 36 millimeters on my 6.75 inch millimeter wrist. This is an elevated integrated bracelet sports style watch. If you have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments. I've spent a ton of time with this watch. You can let me know in the comments in the video. You can let me know in the comments on the website for the accompanying piece as well. And happy to let everyone go. I'll let you get back to it. Enjoy the rest of the videos. And don't forget to subscribe. But otherwise, thanks everyone. This is Kaz, and you've been watching Two Broke Watch Knobs. Later. Hey, Kaz here. I'm back. I totally forgot. I have to take the bracelet off of this thing. I need you to see. I need you to see how easy or not easy this is, truthfully. And you can let me know if I'm doing something wrong. So, little levers here in the back. You get your fingers. Actually, it'll probably be easier if I do it like this. So you see these two little levers there? Go and you squeeze them in, and presto changeo. Okay, well, there we go. Sorry about that. Presto changeo ish. It comes off. So you can get a better look at the mechanism here. These are the two little pieces I was trying to squeeze together. So obviously that was way easier than when like normally trying to dig at it with like a strap tool or something like that. So getting it back on. Let's see here. So I squeeze. No. What if I do? No. Oh my god. You know what's really funny? Even though I'm having a little bit of user error on this, I still prefer this to a strap tool. Hey, we got it. Okay, there's a trick. I can do it. I'm not gonna do it again, but I now understand how to do it. So I just wanted to share with people. I'll do it again. What that actually looks like. Okay, that went a lot easier. So if you want to get it back on, you line it up the best you can. You hold your breath and clench. And you hold it there and squeeze. Nope. Okay. All right, we're gonna do this, everyone. I'm gonna do this in front of everyone. There we go. All right, takes practice. My first few attempts were user error. It is like I said, this is a much preferred system than the traditional, spring bar tool you'd have to get in there. So thank you again for checking out the review. Thank you again for watching all the way at the end and watching me fumble with the bracelet removal. But I just wanted to make sure that I captured that. All right, subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Thank you, everyone.